What's up guys, KPlaysHere. Another week in January, another IGN first look video for Monster Hunter Wilds. This week, we've got an interview with Tokita and Fujioka discussing how the team approaches weapon design and gameplay. That's a topic I've been waiting for them to touch on for a while, because I'm pretty interested in... Alright, cut the intro. We've got new hunting horn footage to go over. Very brief footage, sure, but footage nonetheless. We'll get to the talk on weapon design in a second, yeah. But first things first, we've got duty to analyze. It's worth noting that as far as we've seen, the portion of the team that's in charge of making weapon models has yet to miss with anything. And that streak definitely continues here. We have what seems to not only be the REY DAU hunting horn, just take out the scales on the handle and the thunder element on its attacks, but as far as I know, it's also the first REY DAU weapon that's been revealed, period. In their interview on monster design, the devs mentioned that REY DAU was one of their quote-unquote handsome monsters made to look good for promoting the game. So, what better choice to finally show off its weapon design motif than the most handsome weapon, am I right? We see here that it's got an awesome Thunder God Raijin vibe with the ring of drums, which works even better for hunting horn for obvious reasons. Can't wait to hear how this thing sounds. Hopefully it takes at least some parts of REY DAU's awesome theme. Or even better, some of those eerie metallic whale sounds it makes. Whatever this thing sounds like though, the visuals alone carry it for sure. If we look a bit deeper into the clips though, there are some extra details we can pull from this reveal too. The first is that while this horn has the same white, red, yellow notes we've already seen on the Hope horn, it's rocking another new Echo Wave and Echo Bubble. Still no sign of that third special performance, but with this one also having offset melody like the Hope horn, kinda leads me to believe that those might be tied to the song list instead of being freely interchangeable like the other two variables. As far as those go, though, we've already know that the elemental waves were going to be a thing, but now we have official confirmation that there will be one for each element, rather than possibly just being a generic Echo Wave element that just mirrors what's already on your weapon. I mean, that is kind of what happened here, but a matching Thunder Wave on a Thunder Horn just makes sense for REY DAU. It's entirely possible that for a monster with multiple abilities, we could see some mixing and matching. Like, for example, Kongolala could have a pure Raw Horn, but a status Echo Wave. Or Rathian could have a Poison Horn with Echo Wave Fire. Really hoping that they get creative like that, because so far you typically only see multiple statuses and elements on weapons like Bowgun or Dual Blades. Unfortunately, we weren't shown the damage Echo Wave Thunder put out on Rompopolo, but I have my fingers crossed that this will make element and status the go-to for hunting horn. We have a so quick you'll miss it hint in favor of this being the case, because towards the end of the video we see a regular sound wave also dealing elemental damage. The more multi-hitting moves that do this and less pure raw attacks we have, looking at you sound waves and rise, the better. Moving on to the bubble, going off the fact that it's green this time and the buff icon that pops up when you're in the AoE, I'm pretty sure that this one's got a healing effect. I've been betting on this being an option since way back when Echo Bubbles were initially revealed. I mean, come on, health recovery is an easy choice for a supportive AoE effect. World even had this as a hunting tool with the health booster, and now Hunting Horn can essentially place them on demand. I like that it's fitting for the weapon but at the same time tied to an otherwise offensive tool. There's no passively healing with these, since other players will have to be physically in or near them for the effect to activate. Which means you'll need to be right in the middle of the action to share your bubbly goodness. And while you're there, you might as well just whack the monster too, right? I've said it before and I'll say it again, Wild's version of Echo Bubbles were a great idea. What I wish I could have seen here is a bit of damage on the hunter so we could gauge at how fast this healing is. That's an important factor after all, because there's a big difference between it just being a slightly faster than natural recovery or a quick health bar refill. Hopefully it's the latter, because I've got some interesting tanking shenanigans in mind if we compare this with Offset Malady and or Sonic Barrier. Just imagine becoming sturdier than a weapon with an actual shield using pure sound. How awesome would that be? Now, before we move on to talking about those other weapons that they mentioned in the video, there was a bit of info on the general thought process behind Hunting Horn's redesign in this game. Let's listen to that clip.
面で言うと僕は結構狩猟部は結構変わったなと思っていて、まあ響き玉、
響き玉とか、はいまあ、ああいうのも結構いろいろ追加でアクション作ったりもしてるし。
そうですね。
That's it? Well, okay. This skimmed right by it here, but luckily in the interview article proper, they expanded on it some more. Here's Tokita's quote about weapon personality, using Hunting Horn as an example. At the outset, I told the team that I wanted the concept of this weapon to be that it can produce proper amounts of damage when used when it performs best. the area around you. Instead of being able to unleash one attack after the next, you can use something like an echo bubble to deal damage by controlling the area. Since we have this element of sound that other weapons can't produce, how do we make use of that while outputting damage? That's the kind of things we challenge ourselves to do with the weapon. Instead of thinking that it's all about damage, we care more about making the most out of each weapon's personality. Now that you're able to carry 2 weapons in this game, there was some discussion during the open beta about the most powerful choice being to buff yourself with a hunting horn before switching to another weapon and fighting. We're tuning the release version, balancing it with the end content in mind, to make sure that the hunting horn isn't the only choice for a secondary weapon by having self buffs be worthwhile but not too strong. What we can gather from this is a pretty good peek into their heads when giving every weapon its own distinct playstyle. They had a vision, finding some way to encourage an involved, aggressive approach to hunting horn gameplay by default, building up its damage potential, and flavoring it all with something that's uniquely its own. Their solution, giving it a sound-based area control ability that rewards you for playing up close and personal with more damage and special buffs, which also synergizes with all the other sound abilities in its arsenal for even better results, was masterfully done. The back to the drawing board tweaks after the fact to avoid unforeseen issues with pocket horning was a good move too. No other weapon uses sound waves or AoE abilities, and you can't use these to their full potential if you just play passively or try to use hunting horn just for the free buffs. That same in-depth thinking extends to other areas of the game too, like with how they reworked ammo on the bow and the bowguns to try to fit better with the way wilds will play. Open world exploration means that it'd be easy to get caught up in the hunt after hunt cycle and regularly run through your supplies. With things like consumables, it's one thing to have to restock these somehow without going back to a proper camp. Gather, combine materials, just get good so you don't need them. But when it comes to items like ammo that you literally need to attack, there's a pretty distinct difference there. The solution of tying bow coatings to a gauge system as trick arrows and giving the guns additional ammo through a similar mechanic was a smart move. Do the ranged weapons need any help whatsoever? Probably not, because I expect they're probably just going to be just as busted as they were in 5th gen. But you still gotta appreciate the way they're being handled from a game design perspective here. And on that note, back to hunting horn. Nah, I'm kidding. I actually want to touch on what they said about greatsword. According to them, this weapon is essentially their gameplay baseline. They apparently go on to other weapons like sword and shield and heavy bowgun to test other extremes, but greatsword sets the standard. Since it pretty much embodies the meaty, impactful combat that the series is known for, that actually makes sense. If they can make things like the new mechanics and the general pace of the game work for a slower, simpler weapon like greatsword, the design process can work for similar weapons just as easily, and expand to the lighter and more complex weapons from there. So lucky you, greatsword mains, your weapon is essentially the core component that they base the entirety of combat gameplay around. And that's honestly cool to know now, because with that context you can see how the game's pace is anchored by being based on a heavy, weighted playstyle. Fights will rarely outrun the slower weapons without giving them a single chance to fight back, and where it does, they're given tools to compensate. Just look at things like the greatsword's tackle in 5th gen, or the new perfect guard mechanic. Speedier weapons can in turn use their extra mobility as an actual advantage, before being balanced in various other ways. I swear, I'd love to have an hours-long video on this topic, just digging deep into what the devs were thinking when it came to each weapon and Monster Hunter's combat as a whole. Because just this brief look has me pretty intrigued. But to round things out with some of the non-weapon specific things that were shared, let's talk starting weapons and decorations. I found it a bit odd that they said that this was the first time that they designed starting weapons for all 14 weapon types, because last I checked, we definitely have some unique ones. Sure, thinking on this point some more, I did realize that in a lot of games, the starter lines were just the generic bone and ore models, but Yukumo, Relic, Kimura, all of those lines were unique, no? From what I can guess, they could have meant that this was the most effort that they put into a starting line, but I don't know. Maybe there's a bit lost in translation in here that the Japanese-speaking viewers out there can help you with here. In any case, again, after looking at World, it's great to see them taking good-looking and unique weapon design seriously this time around. Bits on sticks, man. Never forget, and never again. For another lesson learned from World, everyone that was never able to get a Mighty Bowl jewel, or is still to this day sitting on just the freebie attack boost echoes without coming across a single extra through RNG, get ready to celebrate in the streets, because it turns out that not a single skill will be unavailable through decoration crafting. That's actually huge news, because it means that we'll never again be straight up unable to put together the basics of a build, or be forced to use a mandatory armor piece to get that one important skill. I mean, I can't really relate, because as a hunting horn user, I just need that easy to get horn maestro and I'm good to go. But I always feel bad for the mains of weapons that need a lot of specifics to get up and running at full potential. I guess when even the creators of the game get burned by bad RNG luck, enough is enough. There will be some degree of RNG dependency, I think, though. because they also made a comment that could potentially have a lot of weight to it. There will also be multi-skill decorations again. What that looks like could be changing a lot, depending on how it all turns out. Will they just be multiple levels of the same skill so that you have to hope to hit the jackpot to max out specific skills more efficiently? Or are we talking combinations of different skills like the level 4 decos in Iceborne? Or even further into the realm of RNG craziness, could it be any combo of skills? In practice, this really ranges from having attack boosts on demand but hoping for a 2 to 3 point jewel to drop, or lucking out and snagging something insane like, I don't know, like weakness exploit and critical boost on a single decoration slot. What'll it be? We really can't tell with the details we have now, but set building could either be more efficient and streamlined than ever before, or able to create even wilder monstrosities than we could in 5th gen. Fatalis gear could have nothing on the endgame of Wilds. Only 5 more weeks until all the questions are answered though. And who knows how many more we might come across in that time. We've already gotten an announcement that there will be some new gameplay coming this week, and after that, who knows? I'm still itching to see more Black Flame, and that inevitable Ice Map trailer. Although, this close to release, they might just skip over that and go right to the epic final teaser trailer. We shall see. Until then though, this has been another KPlays, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.